Hello guys! Today is another great day to play the Tour Around the Zone mode in Chernobylite 1. And you may wonder why am I speaking about Chernobylite 1, and that's because just recently, yesterday, we published an announcement trailer for Chernobylite 2. And I'm still very hyped for this sequel. Just hop into our channel and check out the trailer, and you might have a lot of questions because it's just a cinematic, it's just the announcement. And then we will share a lot more information in the upcoming days, weeks and months. And the premiere is planned for 2025 for next-gen consoles and PCs. And so far, you can already see in the gameplay of Chernobylite 1 how it looks, right? So it's basically first-person view, it's a lot about exploration, and for example, fighting is optional. In the Chernobylite 2, there will be a lot of differences, but overall, it's the continuation of this game. So it will be different, because we try new ideas based on your feedback, based on our experiences and our new ideas, that we wanted to implement maybe sometimes even before, but we didn't get a chance. So this time it will be a different game, but nonetheless a continuation, and in my personal opinion, the gameplay is damn well good. Dope AF. Sorry, I had to censor myself. But today is the time to show you another map in the Tour Around the Zone mode. So if you didn't play it yet, the Tour Around the Zone is basically a mode which you freely explore every single map. And there are no enemies, there are no monsters, etc. You honestly have just to walk around, pay attention to the detail, look out for a specific marks on your map, because there you can find things that will broaden your knowledge about the Chernobyl disaster in general. So let's check out which map should we use today. And we already got Moscow Eye covered, Red Forest, Pripyat Central and Cooling Towers. So the Cooling Towers is the newest map. But today we have to choose between Residential, Kopachi and Pripyat Port. So let's jump into the Pripyat Port, because I really like the hospital that is there. Okay, so I'm sure I want to start. And remember, the Tour Around the Zone mode is basically pretty similar to free mode. It may sound similar, but on the other hand, you choose where you go. You choose which map you're going into. And free mode is basically playing the regular game, but on your own rules. But Tour Around the Zone mode is completely peaceful. It's basically what the name gives us. So the name gives us hints that it's the exploration mode. And that's true, because there are, as I said just before, there are no enemies. There are no monsters, no quests. The only thing you need to do is to wander around and just pay attention to everything you see. You can wander around buildings, you can try to go inside anything you want, as it was in the game, but without any, danger. Besides the radiation, of course. But it works differently. Okay, so we landed in the Pripyat Port, and the weather is very foggy, that's the horrific side of the game. So we can see the sunken ships. But I think I know where I am, we are here. So, I just opened the map. You can do it by clicking the M button, and I can see this question mark. And there are a lot of them around the whole map. This is the hospital, if I remember correctly. This is the part of residential area. And there should be somewhere here. There should be a Pripyat cafe. But, or is this one? Sorry, I don't remember exactly from looking just at the map. But let's head up to the first question mark. So, it's quite scary, even knowing that there are no enemies, still it's kinda creepy. Yeah, the famous sign, Pripyat, 1970. Okay, so there is the first, so I can see, So this one is a note. As you may already guessed, the note is basically just an information that is given to you on a piece of virtual paper. The Pripyat River spanning Belarus and Ukraine is 775 kilometers, so 775 kilometers long, with a basin of nearly 115 square kilometers, 1000 square kilometers. Is the largest tributary of the Dnieper River and known for its strong turbulent flow and high sandy banks. Spring floods can cause the water level to rise significantly. Prior to the 1930s, the only way to cross the river was by ferry. During World War II, the bridges were destroyed and only railroad bridge was rebuilt. That's one of the things why they built Chernobyl nuclear power plant just around here, because of the accessibility to water. So maybe let's go here for a change. I always like Pripyat Cafe, but this time I'm focused more on... Oh, I can, yes. Oh, Igor said that. But this time I can look for other places. So there... Where is it? Somewhere inside... Yep, there's another note. Pripyat, a city near Chernobyl nuclear power plant, was planned to be twice its current size. New housing and expansion of the power plant to include at least 2 more units were scheduled. Yeah, exactly, and the cooling towers that you could see in the previous video from this mini-series, or if you jumped into the game and visited the cooling towers map, these were the cooling towers that were supposed to be connected to units 5 and 6, which were never created due to the Chernobyl disaster. The 6th and 7th micro-districts would have extended the city to the river, however the intended construction site was instead used as the heavily contaminated sandy plateau. Burial ground. Yep. 82 trench-style burial mounds. Yep. So these were the notes, but there should be some scientists, maybe this will be the one. Okay, so we already, because of the foggy weather, we already can see like the shape of the buildings, and this is the hospital. And recently I've shown you our original footage, like first-person view and also other that we gathered by being in the zone and scanning and recording everything. And this is basically almost one-to-one as it was shown in the videos, like this small entrance to the side, the overgrown flora around, like bushes and trees, etc. Pay attention to the detail when you play it, especially during this mode, because you can do whatever you want, there's no time limit and anything like this, so you can really check out all the details, like even specific tiles look pretty much the same as in the zone. Oh yeah, and that's the second thing. Sometimes when you encounter a question mark on the map, sometimes it's the note and sometimes it's the scientist. So the scientist, as you may guess, will speak to you, so it's more interactive. You can ask him some questions.
This is Pripyat Hospital 126. It used to be one of several medical facilities serving Pripyat and the neighboring areas. It was operational during the time of the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. The hospital was used to treat and evacuate the injured workers and nearby residents, but eventually became contaminated with radioactive materials. Today, the hospital is abandoned and serves as a reminder of the devastating effects of the Chernobyl disaster.
So was anyone treated here after the disaster? And if you are interested in Chernobyl disaster, even just a bit, you already probably know that there were people treated here because that was the nearest hospital.
On the night of the Chernobyl disaster, firemen and plant workers were taken to Pripyat Hospital 126 with radiation sickness and burns. They arrived still wearing their contaminated suits and were treated at the hospital. Despite being abandoned for over 30 years, their suits stored in the basement still emit dangerous levels of radiation.
Yeah, and that's why the basement where the suits were dumped is still one of the most irradiated places in the zone. Overall, if you didn't know that, the zone is very much safe. basically you need to have a local tour who knows exactly where you can go or where you can't, and that includes buildings who are dangerous themselves because sometimes they could collapse. Because sometimes they can collapse, and due to that, it's always best to get a local tour guide because, well, basically they know the zone as their own homes. And this particular spot is heavily restricted, and not a lot of people are allowed in there.
Pripyat Hospital 126 had 410 beds and several clinics and 5 interconnected, 6-story buildings. It was located on Druzhby-Narodov Street, near the cafe and dock, and took up most of Microdistrict 1 in Pripyat. A large sign on the roof read, "The health of the people is the wealth of the country."
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scientist. And there was something inside. I'm purposely not turning on my flashlight or torch, whatever word you prefer for this, because I like this atmosphere. So, here's another note. Angelina Konstantinovna Guskova, the director of the Clinic for Radiation Medicine at Hospital No. 6 in Moscow, received an emergency call from Chernobyl at 2:30 a.m. on April 26, 1986, so about an hour after the disaster happened. Medics at the power plant were seeking help in treating workers and firefighters who were already suffering from acute radiation poisoning. Guskova was most likely the first person in Moscow to learn about the accident, which had occurred just 1 hour earlier. And the Moscow Hospital No. 6 is also the place where a lot of first responders were transported to after, well, being diagnosed with acute radiation syndrome. So it wasn't a pretty thing to suffer from. And oh, there's another note. I have a luck for notes this time because usually it's like 50-50, sometimes a note, sometimes a scientist. But since the start of the Soviet Union's nuclear program in 1949, the potential effects of radiation on human health were well known. However, treatment procedures remained classified until 1986. Coincidence? Maybe, but I don't believe it. The government considered this knowledge a Cold War secret that could guarantee survival in the event of a nuclear war. Unfortunately, this attitude had consequences after the Chernobyl disaster. Especially that, remember, we are speaking about the knowledge, like the public knowledge. So a lot of people, even if they heard that there was an accident in the nuclear power plant and there is a radiation risk, radiation poisoning risk, etc., they often didn't know what to do. So, especially that the USSR healthcare system wasn't the best, to mildly put it. And often people that feared the symptoms of radiation poisoning or acute radiation syndrome or anything else were told that they have something called radiophobia. And if you think that's a made-up word, it basically is, or was at the time at least, and they were sent home. But let's read on. Apart from a handful of specialists, hospitals and their staff were ill-prepared to handle radiation sickness and needed to quickly catch up on the necessary knowledge. And that's true. And the one thing I also love about this mode, the Tour Around the Zone mode, is that there are, as I told you many times today, there are no enemies, so you can peacefully walk down any open building you can and to admire the details we prepared for you. And I really like that I can, for example, stay here and look closely at the details of every single piece of furniture, or I don't know, details on the walls or posters, etc. I can even look out of the window and, well, can't see much in this foggy weather, but still. So I think that's it for today. I don't want to spoil you too much. And I think the previous videos were too long, especially that I covered about 40, 30, 50% of the whole map. So this time it will be different. This time I want you to discover it yourselves. And I want you to hop into the game, check out the Tour Around the Zone mode, and if you have a PlayStation version or Xbox version, you can also do it, because if you didn't, get the update, which is a free update, and by doing so you will get access to this mode too. And the free play mode, which you often ask, is unlocked, so you have to play and finish the game at least once to have this mode unlocked. And remember guys, we just announced Chernobylite 2, and hop into our channel, check out for yesterday's video, Chernobylite 2 announcement trailer, and share your thoughts in the comments. I would really like to hear them, and I would appreciate it a lot, especially that this new project is like very, how to call it, ambitious, I think. And I think that our dev team made a really good job so far, and it will get better. Thank you for staying and for enjoying this gameplay with me, and that's it for today guys. Take care, stay safe, and see you next week.